Okay, now that we have our objects made here, just wanted to show you something really quickly here with an object that you create inside of Fireworks. If you choose the white icon and click on the object, you can actually move here and create some interesting shapes as well, just by pulling on this, just like vectors, same thing here. So anyways, we're gonna drag and drop these right into Flash, and I'm pretty sure with other programs you're able to do the same thing, just haven't yet tried it. So here's our stage in Flash. I basically have, I'll start a new file here. Choose on your Flash documents, either that or it'll ask you. When the default opens up, it's going to be at 550 by 400. Let me reopen this. You'll want to change that to 800 by 600 and to match your stage here. So we're going to select our objects here. We're just going to bring these two in. Well, we can see what happens when we bring this one in. Drag and drop it in here. So that's basically it. We're all set to go here. Let's back this up about 50%. As you can see with this object, because I didn't flatten it, it actually lost a lot of its effects. Now if I had flattened it, we've been all good. So I'm going to delete this. Over in our library over here, you'll see the objects that I brought in, and also the Fireworks objects here. And we really don't need this stuff. So we're going to drag and drop our DROs here. And once we create one DRO, we can just copy the instance over and over again. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a layer called DROs, and I'm also going to create a layer called text. Now the text is what is going to be talking to Mach and updating the values from Mach. And so let's see here. Let's create our text, which this also works in layers, so depending on whether it's on top or on bottom. And just by clicking on the A here, we're doing text. We're going to do 0, 0, 0, 0.000. And let me actually lock this layer so I don't accidentally grab the wrong thing. And I'm going to change my text so it's black. And then I'm going to also change the size just by dragging this right here. Try to get that text as large as we can, make sure it's visible for everybody. And so there we go. So here's our text. Now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to copy this, and I'm going to unlock this here. And I'm actually going to create another layer to copy to, and I'll show you why in 1 second. So I'm going to copy it, and these little vertical lines that pop up just show that it is square with that. And I'll do 3 for 3-axis machine. Now to keep things simple, I'm going to select all just the image DROs, and I'm going to right click and cut those. And just to keep things organized, I'm going to paste it back on the DRO level and make sure our text, then I'm going to lock it, highlight our text, right click, copy, make sure they're all together on the text portion, and I'm going to then delete this layer. So now for the DROs to work, we want to make sure they're not static. We want them to be dynamic because they need to pull in variables. Once you make them dynamic, you'll get this variable box. We'll type in capital DRO 800, which is the OEM code for the x-axis. So on the y-axis, we will change this to dynamic text, change this to DRO 801, which is the y-axis OEM code, and then we'll also do dynamic text for the z, which is DRO 802. Pretty easy there. 801, 802, 800. So now we're set. This will receive variables now from Mach. Let's make a folder here so we can keep this all organized, and we're going to call this DROs. And that'll be our folder here. I'm going to just drag and drop these in there, and then we're set. Let's make another folder, and let's make some buttons here. Alright, and add pages. And let's create some 0 buttons. We've got all of our buttons and stuff over here on the side. Here's our buttons. And these are way too big for the size of zeroing, so we're going to just shrink them up to a decent size here, and we'll zoom in about 100%. Alright, and so that looks about square. So now with buttons, Flash already has it built in to have up, over, and down state for the mouse events, whether your cursor is over the mountain. So we're going to do a convert to a symbol. We're going to choose button. We're going to call this a default underscore BNT. Doesn't matter what you name it. So now it's a button. Now what that means is if I double click on the actual button, then it'll show me this up, over, down, and hit state. Now what you want to do is just simply left click, drag all the way to the hit state, left click, drag all the way back. Now our hit state is the area that the button can be depressed in. So it is this entire area here. Now what we're going to want to do is right click on the button, convert it to a symbol. The reason is because it's much easier just to add a transparent color to it instead of actually going into your bitmap editor and importing all these different bitmaps. We're going to call this default button, and we'll just give it a movie clip incidence so we can actually change the color here. So on the up state we want it normal. On the over state we're going to insert a frame to make sure we don't change the up state. We also are going to insert a frame by right clicking insert frame on the down state. So on the over state, let's come up over here, click on the button, you'll get colors. Choose choose tint, and let's give it overstate of like a yellow. That way they know that they're over the button. On the down state, to let them know that the button was actually hit, we'll do a tint of red, and that way they know that it has been hit. Up, over, down, and then the actual hit state of the button. We're going to back out here by double clicking, and now here's our buttons set up and all set to go. So I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste, drag this down, look for everything to line up, and copy paste, drag down, look for the arrows to make sure everything lines up. Alright, so now how does Mach know what this button's going to do? Well, we come over to our actual codes that are available online, and in our buttons we've got all the list of all the possible buttons. Now you can just copy and paste all this inside of Flash here if you'd like, or you can just copy in what you need. I'm just going to copy this all in because I'm not sure what. So one more time. Alright, so in here I am going to paste those back in there. Alright, so for our zeros, we know that 0 all, 0x. So the name that you need is the actual 0x underscore button right here. So, and if you notice in the action script for the buttons, that all that we did was add a capital after 0 and then what you wanted to be zeroed. So that's pretty easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to select on the first button that we want to have for our 0x, and now Mach knows when that's pressed to send off the command. We're also going to include it here, but we're going to put in a capital Y, and we're also going to include it here, but of course we're going to have a capital Z. And now all we have to do is make sure that we remember what these buttons are by including text. Just to keep things organized, I am going to call this my buttons, just so I know later if I need to check. I'm also going to add a layer, and I'm going to call this text. So then I know that these are the buttons text. I can lock everything by clicking here, unlock it, select the frame, and I will call this with static text Z0. And not too worried about the size, I can come in here and change it pretty easily. And we also want to change this to white. and just get in so we can still see it visible, but it fits inside of there. Once we get the right size for the first one, we can pretty easily just copy and paste these in here and paste this in here. Double click inside of it. This is the Z DRO, this is the Y DRO, and this is the X DRO. So now we know what they are. And you can go in there and adjust heights and all that stuff. So alright, so now we got our buttons here and they're all set to go. Our DROs are set to go, and really quickly here we will show how to make an LED button. So come in here, drag a new button instance on here. We can right click free transform, holding down shift will keep everything in proportions as it shrinks. And now we're going to right click, we're going to convert this to a symbol. We'll call this eStop _ MOV, but feel free to call it whatever you'd like. Press OK. Now it's a movie. Now inside of the movie, we want to create 2 frames for each state that the eStop is going to be in. So we will right click inside of here, insert frame to make sure that the other ones doesn't affect it. Right click, convert to symbol, and we'll call this active eStop. Doesn't matter what you call it. And we will push OK. On the second button, we're going to right click, convert to actually they should have been reversed, but that's okay. This should be active eStop. Doesn't really matter though. And okay. Oops. An active eStop, that's close enough. And so click on your frame, and down here in the frame you want to tell it to be green, because we've set up the code to look for green or red. So if it's active, it's going to be green. If it's red, then it's going to be on this particular frame. So if we want it to blink, we can right click and convert that movie that we just converted to a movie to blink, we'll call it. And inside of here, we can, as you can see, we're on the 2 different states. We'll actually quickly, for our first state for green, we're going to change this tint to green. As you can tell, I'm getting tired here. And this state, we're going to double click inside of it. Now we've got a movie here. So when it comes across to here, it's going to play this movie inside of here. So we're going to make about 10 frames. We're going to insert a keyframe here. So now we want it normal state. Now we want it to blink to let people know that the actual button has been activated. So we'll do tint, and we're going to do red. So now as the movie plays, it'll go from red to its normal state. Now one thing we want to remember to do is click on here, and in your action scripts tell it to stop, because we don't want it to continue to play each frame. So we'll just put a stop in here. Pretty simple. If you go over here to the this little button here, there's time controls. So you can easily just choose play, stop, whatever you want. Just double click on it and it'll do that action. So we're going to stop it. And let's take a look to see how we're looking here. So here's our overall LED right here. This is the furthest out. So we're going to have to let Mach know what this button means. Now the way we do that is coming over to our LED code inside of our text here, and we're going to highlight everything. Might as well bring it, well actually since we're just making this, we'll just bring this in, but you can highlight everything and bring it in there if you'd like. And we will come over to here, and since we're making a LED button, let's set up another script called LEDs script, just to keep them all organized. Click on the frame, click on the action, right click inside of here, and paste. Now this code is telling us that it's looking for the reset button. So now this will act like a button and it'll act like a LED at the same time. That's important to name this so we know where Mach should look for and send the data to. So now this is named reset button. Inside of here it's got 2 frames, one green, one red. If Mach sends a value to go to green, it'll stay on green. It tells it to go to a value of red, it'll go to red. Now when it goes to this frame, it's actually playing a movie inside of it that's making it blink. Alright, so let's name our button here. You can actually put text inside if you want to tell it to be active or not too. So for instance, on this layer, we could add another layer. Select the first one, insert a keyframe, and add some text here. And let's say e-stop, so they know that that is an e-stop. Make sure it's static text. Let's bring up the size here, drag and drop it on here. And now that we got that nicely set up, we can just click on the next frame, paste in place, and let's tell them that it's active. So they got some visual confirmation what's going on. And then let's just drop down, center that, and drop down the text so it fits inside the button. And so now it's active. Now they know it's active. So we're going to back up here. And so now we have our e-stop. It's named reset button. We look at our script here, reset button, and it's got a function. And we've got these buttons here. Let's unlock it so we can click them. And it's called ZX, ZY, Z0Z. And we also have our variables here for the text to call on the DROs. Now once you set this up, I mean it seems a little bit difficult and a lot to do. Once you do it once, it's really easy. So let's double check our button script, make sure we have that in there. All of our button scripts are in here, and basically you can just drag and drop your buttons wherever you want and just copy this for the name of the button. Alright, so let's see what happens. File. You can go to publishing settings if you'd like. You don't need the HTML now until we can get Mach up and running for remote controlling. You don't really need to change anything. If you just don't want the HTML, that's fine. It doesn't really affect anything. Go to publish. And now, actually I'm sorry, go to save as, because you probably haven't saved it as something yet. Let's choose demo flash. And let's save that. I'm going to replace that. I'm going to go to file and publish. So now where you save that to, it'll actually publish the file, which our demo flash is. Now you can double click on it right there and take a look, make sure everything's working. And let's test it out in Mach. So now I'm opening up Mach. I'm going to close this down. And I'm actually going to go to View, Load Screen. I'm going to go to the desktop. I'm going to choose Mach Codes, change this to Flash Screens, Demo, Open. Now here it is. As you can see, the buttons are responding and we're getting a blinking active e-stop. Now if I click on this, it goes back and it's sent the command to Mach saying that everything's good now. So now if I push my arrow keys, I can move my DROs. And it looks like I made a mistake right here. I'm not too sure what that is. I might have a layer up there wrong. I'll take a look at that. And if I click on my buttons, it zeroes everything. And we should all be good. Actually, double check on the length of your text when you create it. Otherwise, Flash will cut them off. I didn't think about that. So that's about it, and should be all set to go. Give me any emails if you have any problems.